sit back and enjoy the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup. Henry urged to go for goal, and she finds it.
And they scored! Benjana! Bonasea again! It's victory for Italy!
Super Z scores for Nigeria! It's a hat-trick! It's a fourth goal for Sam Kerr!
5 for Morgan.
Wow, what a save!
The Netherlands are heading for the round of 16.
Thailand have a goal. You can see what it means on the sidelines.
Jamaica have their first World Cup goal.
Argentina have scored again.
This could send Chile through. Oh my goodness! The most devastating moment.
Marta makes it 1-0 at her 5th World Cup.
Here's Ellen White. That should wrap it up for England.
And shoots has put Cameroon into the knockout stages of the Women's World Cup.
And side-footed into the bottom corner. And Norway are into the last 8.
And that's a third goal, Lea Schuler. And Germany are into the quarter-finals.
And arriving brilliantly with the finish, it's Alex Greenwood.
Henry!
Spain works so hard.
Alistina Blackstenius.
Oh, what a shot.
And she scores in the 90th minute.
Le Havre is open for business for one last time. Beth Mead pulls it back. Bronze! England are going to Lyon for the semi-finals, and Norway are going home.
Superstars everywhere you look. And should be 2-0 and is. What a World Cup for Megan Rapinoe. France fall short yet again.
Oh, what a goal! The Netherlands are through to the semi-finals.
Germany are out.
Lovely ball, Morgan. Fabulous goal. Horton. Save! The United States have done it. England 1, the United States 2. It's orange against yellow. Touched onto the post, it's a brilliant save. Might open up Groningen, yes! Groningen fires the Netherlands in front. And the European champions are in with a chance of becoming the world champions.
Good afternoon. Bonjour. Welcome to the closing press conference of the FIFA Women's World Cup France 2019. We have the pleasure today to have at the head table Brigitte Henriquez, Vice President of the LOC and the French Football Federation. Next to her, Noël Le GRAET, President of the French Federation and the LOC as well. And of course, next to me, the FIFA President, Gianni Infantino. At this stage, you must, all of you, be very well aware on how the interpretation system works. Today, we have English and French, okay? English and French. No other languages are available. Before we start with opening remarks, we have some figures to share with you after amazing highlights. So we'll see exactly some TV figures. As you can see, we will exceed the 1 billion viewers for this competition. And the average global live match audience will be doubled compared to Canada 2015. More TV figures as well to share with you. I'd like to highlight the more than 58 million viewers, TV audience we had for the Brazil and France game in 21 territories, which is an amazing result, and the 80% share of viewing for the quarterfinal of Netherlands against Italy. More figures on FIFA digital platforms. We had 2.2 million followers, which is an increase of 22% from the start of the tournament. And another amazing figure is like the app was rated number 1 in 33 countries in the world. Moving from digital to fans and attendance, as you can see, we had more than 1 million fans attending the games, with an occupancy of more than 74% across the tournament. Moving from fans attendance to some football figures, I will not comment on them. You just had the TSG press conference right before that one. And of course, all those figures will be available for download on Media Channel. So that's it in terms of figures. You will have those ones plus additional one again on Media Channel. So from images to facts, now we would like to know a little bit more about what our guests feel about this result. Brigitte, I will start with you. Qu'est-ce que ce tournoi représente pour la progression du football féminin en France?
Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Je crois que c'est une opportunité extraordinaire pour la France de passer la seconde vitesse. De la même manière qu'on avait pu, après la Coupe du Monde 2011 en Allemagne, dire qu'il y avait un avant 2011 et un après 2011. On sait aujourd'hui qu'on aura un avant 2019 et un après 2019. Donc c'est juste un bonheur extraordinaire, tout simplement parce qu'en 2011, nous étions 50 000 joueuses. En 2019, nous étions 180 000 et à l'heure où je vous parle, on a déjà 185 000 licenciés. Ça veut dire que pendant la compétition, il y a déjà 3 500 joueuses qui se sont inscrites. Donc c'est déjà une progression énorme. On sait qu'à la rentrée, on va avoir un afflux de licenciés considérable. C'était déjà le cas après la Coupe du Monde 2018 en Russie. On avait 15 000 jeunes filles qui s'étaient inscrites contre 10 000 l'année d'avant. On est prêt à accueillir ces jeunes filles. Il y a 15 millions d'euros qui ont été dédiés à cet héritage pour la France. Vous savez qu'on a 16 000 clubs en France. C'était très important d'aider les clubs. Les clubs ont besoin vraiment d'aide en termes d'encadrement, en termes d'infrastructure, pour la formation, également pour les buts, le matériel, tous les équipements. C'est la priorité de notre direction technique nationale. On sait d'ores et déjà qu'on atteindra la barre des 200 000 licenciés très tôt. Et pour vous donner un ordre d'exemple, notre objectif prioritaire, c'est qu'une joueuse aujourd'hui qui veut s'inscrire dans un club, puisse déjà trouver très vite à quel endroit elle peut s'inscrire. Donc les ligues et les districts sont prêts. Vous avez des cartographies où il n'y aura plus qu'à cliquer sur la ville où on habite pour pouvoir savoir quelle personne joindre. Ce n'était pas le cas avant. Et surtout vous dire qu'à partir de 2020, une joueuse pourra trouver un club à moins de 15 km de chez elle, à moins d'une demi-heure. Ça c'est aussi quelque chose d'important parce que jusqu'à présent, il n'y avait qu'un club sur deux qui accueillait. C'est pas tout. Cet héritage-là aussi, grâce à cette Coupe du Monde, va nous permettre d'avoir davantage de dirigeantes. Vous savez que c'est aussi important. On a besoin d'aider nos clubs. On est déjà 13 070 femmes dirigeantes, ce qui est beaucoup puisqu'on n'était que 25 000 en 2011. Et l'autre aussi, grande satisfaction, c'est qu'on vient de franchir la barre des 1040 arbitres. On était à 1000 au début de la compétition. Et ça, c'est aussi très important. La plupart des pays n'ont que 300 à 400 arbitres dans leur réservoir, hormis l'Allemagne qu'on a 2500. Donc voilà, on est vraiment prêt vrai en tout cas à cet héritage-là et au-delà du football féminin en France. On voit bien que le plus grand bonheur, c'est que ça a fait bouger les lignes dans tous les pays du monde avec les chiffres que Ségolène a pu annoncer. Et ça, je peux vous avouer que c'est comme une espèce de communion où toutes les passionnées, mais aussi tous les passionnés de football sont vraiment les plus heureux du monde. Vous avez vu les audiences dans l'ensemble des pays. On n'a jamais vu autant de supporters venir remplir nos stades avec des ambiances incroyables, que ce soit dans les villes avant ou pendant les matchs. Et on sait que plus jamais ça ne sera comme avant. Je pense qu'aujourd'hui le football féminin est reconnu partout. Vous avez vu l'équipe argentine qui a franchi que les huitièmes de finale et qui a été célébrée à l'aéroport exactement comme si elles avaient gagné la Coupe du Monde, alors que quelques mois avant, personne ne savait qu'il y avait une équipe nationale argentine. Et je pourrais vous raconter des histoires comme ça pendant longtemps. Donc voilà, on est vraiment très très contents. On sait aussi que ça va faire bouger les lignes dans notre société par rapport à la place de la femme. Et moi, je parle davantage de mixité. On a bien vu que ça avait rendu et des hommes et des femmes heureux. Les stades étaient remplis avec des familles, des enfants. Il y a plus de 65% d'enfants qui regardaient les matchs systématiquement. On a conquis un nouveau public. Et je voudrais juste conclure en vous disant que le plus grand bonheur, c'est que quelle qualité de jeu on a pu voir. Et c'est ça qui a conquis tout le monde. Bien évidemment, je me réjouis que nos Françaises, même si elles ne sont pas allées aussi loin qu'on le souhaitait, ont conquis le cœur des Français, elles aussi. Voilà. Et plus jamais, comme avant, on regardera les matchs de football féminin. Merci Noël de GRAET d'avoir permis ça en France. Merci Gianni aussi. Et rendez-vous très vite pour voir encore cette progression être encore plus spectaculaire.
Merci, belle transition. Du coup, Président Le GRAET, quel est votre ressenti par rapport à votre rôle de pays hôte et organisateur?
Alors, c'est une grande fierté de l'avoir organisé. D'avoir réussi à remplir le stade, qui était l'une des missions qui me paraissait très très difficile. Donc je voulais tirer un coup de chapeau aux LOC, qui ont travaillé pour cette organisation avec la FIFA, nos partenaires habituels. On a réussi, je pense, à donner une bonne image de l'organisation. Le stade manquait de spectateurs. La plupart étaient guichets fermés. Et je peux dire un peu la même chose que
a lot of sold-out stadiums and sold-out games. I mean, the show, however, we have to be aware of two things. I think the first thing we can say was successful was to show women's football of the greatest quality. I don't think anybody had ever imagined this could exist, going into the stadiums, to see such a high-quality game playing. In France, we have a women's soccer game. Yes, we have a lot of viewers, but I think a lot of countries might see the same thing as us.
Je pense que les grands événements indispensables sont une source de bonheur et de richesse pour le développement du football. Gianni, particularly around game playing and football.
And I'm sure that the president of FIFA will also have the occasion to speak of this and underline what I just said. I think you can probably say it very quite directly. But here we have the World Cup. Continents around the world need to have their image promoted, and that's what's been conveyed here as a message via these teams. We've seen the percentages skyrocket, and we've gotten so many good results. The competition started out here in France. It became an extraordinary tournament, and we need these kinds of important events, these kinds of championships. And we need to see maybe even some of the clubs work alongside with them to promote women's football. 4 years of wait for the next WWC is too long for me. There's too much to wait in 4 years. So let's try and see what happens for developing women's football. We need something different from the men's soccer world. They are supported by a lot of professional clubs. It's already well structured, it's strong and promoted around the world. But in the women's soccer world, it's rather necessary to shorten those times. And we need to strive to maybe achieve that. And I think that this might be the right platform on which we can discuss this. This is my own personal point of view, having organized this WWC first time. But I believe in this. When I see how successful everything has been, I think that we have the potential to organize this even sooner. Time flies, and I think we need to organize this kind of championship. Mr. President, I think we have been very proud to organize this WWC in France, and we can go forward with a great deal of confidence. And we have always received a lot of quick responses from FIFA, and I think that has helped us, boosted us along in this competition as organizers of the WWC. And this goes well above and beyond the great quality of the people involved in this organization, the staff. I turn to Birgit, and thank you for your words. President of FIFA, thank you for honoring us with the hosting of this competition. It's incredible the number of people, the viewers who saw these matches, and the stadiums that were full.
President Infantino, women's football was never forgotten by you because it's one of your program pillar, and this tournament is a worldwide success. You said we will see or witness a before France 2019 and an after. How do you foresee the future now?
Well, I think President Le GRAET has already given some ideas about the future, but before speaking about the future, let's just please allow me just to say a couple of words about the present as well.
Absolutely.
Because this Women's World Cup in France has been phenomenal, has been incredible, has been emotional, has been passionate, has been fantastic, has been great, has been the best Women's World Cup ever. Président, la meilleure Coupe du Monde féminine de l'histoire. C'est à ça que ça se résume, cette Coupe du Monde. Je veux dire quelques mots en français pour remercier le Président Le GRAET, Monsieur le Président, merci, la Fédération française de football, Brigitte, Erwan, toute l'équipe du LOC, toute la fédération avec les régions, les districts, les clubs, les hommes, les femmes, les filles, les garçons qui ont participé, qui ont fait vivre cette Coupe du Monde, tout le peuple français finalement aussi. À commencer par le président Macron, qui est un fan de football et de football féminin aussi, comme on a vu. Mais tout le monde, les volontaires, on a vu quelque chose d'exceptionnel, d'extraordinaire dans toutes les villes, les maires des villes, comment est-ce qu'on dit les syndics en français, les gouvernements locaux, etc. Tout ce qu'ils ont mis, tout ce qu'ils ont investi pour cette Coupe du Monde, c'était absolument fabuleux. Et c'est grâce à vous, grâce aux Français, que cette Coupe du Monde est ce qu'elle est, la meilleure Coupe du Monde de l'histoire, une Coupe du Monde magnifique qui en fait a fait vibrer le monde entier. And that's why it's true that I was saying there will be a before and an after the World Cup, the Women's World Cup 2019, in terms of women's football. Many people around the world have tuned in for the first time to watch a women's football match because of the event, because of course FIFA, because World Cup, because it is always special to have a World Cup. And they tuned in, and what did they see? Well, they saw actually that it's football, that this is football, that we have athletes playing football, women, girls playing football, with technical skills, with physical skills, with tactical skills, and we have seen great games. We have seen as well less good games, of course, like in every tournament, but we have seen, and that was the vast majority, fantastic games. 1 million spectators, a little bit more, over 1 billion viewers all around the world which other event in the world, except for the Men's World Cup of football, can unite 1 billion people around the world to watch this? So all of these facts, the players from all the countries, the athletes, the referees who did a fantastic job with the VAR, again for the first time in the history, all of this put together has made this incredible success. And there will be a before, or there was a before, there will be an after World Cup. But it's up to us to make sure that we seize this opportunity and we do something about it. Because as President Noël has said, it's a great thing, this World Cup, but then people forget. And they go into other activities and they do other things. And it's our job to make sure that they don't forget, that we build on this World Cup. And we don't just say, okay, see you in 4 years next time, and then we'll make again a nice press conference and say maybe instead of 1 billion, we have 1 billion and a few 100 million or whatever. No, we have to start working from now. And that's why I'm going to propose to the FIFA Council and, of course, to all our member associations, which ultimately have to embrace with us the development of women's football, a few ideas. I would like to mention 5. Mr. Legret has mentioned the 6th one that we will also probably then put into all the proposals, the World Cup, Women's World Cup every 2 years. But from my side, I would like to propose a Club World Cup for women, starting as soon as possible, as of next year or the year after, but as soon as possible. A real Club World Cup, because we can develop national team football only if we develop club football as well, all over the world, not only in a few countries. So we need a Club World Cup, which can be played even every year to expose clubs from all over the world and to make clubs, men's club, but also women's club, invest even more in women's football in order to shine, not only to dare to shine, but to really shine in a world stage, which is a real and true Club World Cup. And this is the first one. The second one is a Women's World League. I spoke about it for the first time in the FIFA Congress in Bahrain in 2017, so it's already 2 years ago. We made a proposal, we discussed it with all our associations. We had a big majority of over 90% of associations who wanted that. It was then a little bit put on the side because it's true we didn't even have an international match calendar for women's football. We have this now, so we can put it back on the table and we can create a new event with a Women's World League, which is different than the concept of qualifiers with home and away games, but which is played in tournaments all over the world at different levels. This is something that again will boost the development of women's football. The third proposal that I want to make is looking at this World Cup and that how many teams who did not qualify for this World Cup and who are there and giving them as well a chance. I think we should increase the number of participants. We did it for the men. We went from 32 to 48. I think it's time to increase it for the women as well, from 24 to 32. The tricky thing there, of course, is that we have a World Cup coming on in 2023, for which we just started a month ago or a couple of months ago a bidding process based on 24 teams. So there we will need to act more quickly if we want to have 32 teams already in 2023. We will discuss it as a matter of urgency and see if we can already decide to increase for 2023, in which case we should reopen the bidding process and allow everyone to have a chance to organize or maybe co-host for some of those who have been bidding already for the 2014 World Cup, for a World Cup with 32 teams. But nothing is impossible. And based on the success of this World Cup, of course, we have to believe bigger and to do what we should have done already probably some time ago, but now we have the evidence to do it for women's football. The fourth proposal is very simple. We have already more than doubled the prize money for the Women's World Cup this year, going from 15 to 50 billion, I think, and I'm very optimistic about that, and I'm moving ahead for the next World Cup. We will double it for the next World Cup. I'm very confident that we can achieve the necessary figures in order to do that. And the fifth proposal I want to make is, again, about investment in women's football. We have already decided to invest in the next 4 years $500 million, $500 million in women's football. I was saying at the last FIFA Congress that we organized here in Paris that the reserves that FIFA has are at unprecedented high level. We have more than 2.7 billion reserves. We don't need all this money in the Swiss banks. The Swiss banks have enough money. We can use some of it, and I will certainly ask that some of it will be reallocated for the development of women's football. And I think, since those who know me, they know that I like round figures, I will propose that another $500 million is allocated to the development of women's football to make it $1 billion investment in women's football in the next 4 years. Everywhere, in grassroots, in competitions, in the world, but we need to invest this in order to make the whole movement around the world grow. So I will make these proposals. I hope that the Council and the associations will follow me. We have here a Council member, Mr. GRAET, who hopefully I can already start convincing. And if they don't follow me, well, I will just continue to insist until we get these proposals through. So I think this is the after France 2019. This is the after France 2019 World Cup. A lot will happen with women's football, and only fantastic things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President. I'm sure after such impressive announcement, we have questions from the audience. So please raise your hand. Don't forget to mention the language you will address your question. And yeah, please mention your name and organization. Yes.
Mr. Infantino, Frank Heilmann, freelance journalist from Germany. We have heard some things about the future, but we don't know where the World Cup 2023 will be. Yeah. We know that we have 9 nations which have an interest: Bolivia, Brazil, a lot of nations, Australia, Japan, but we also
New Zealand.
New Zealand, I know these countries, and we also read that South Korea perhaps could be organized a World Cup together with North Korea. Yep. Can you say something about the process and the idea with Korea? It's realistic?
Well, the process, I think, has just started, as I said some weeks ago. I mean, as for the men's World Cup bidding process, everything is public, everything is open. The only difference is that instead of having the 211 member associations voting, it is, in fact, the 37 members of the council voting. But for all the rest, it is the same process with the technical assessment, with criteria which are out there, which are with those who have expressed interest and who are preparing now their dossiers, with a decision to be taken, of course, next year. Now, if we were to decide that we should increase the number of teams from 24 to 32, then of course it would be unfair for those who have been bidding for a 24 World Cup or have started to bid, to not give them a chance to review this whole situation. and to see whether they want to join forces, whether they want to go for a 32 World Cup themselves. Again, first we would have to take a decision to move to 32, but I think we shouldn't waste time. I wanted to go to 48 for the Men's World Cup already in 2022. Logistically, it was not possible, otherwise it would have happened because 90% or more of the member associations of FIFA wanted it. So for me, we should give it a try to go to 32, even if this means taking the decision a little bit later in the course of next year, always, of course, but we should be looking into that. As for the bidders, I think for the first time there are 9 bidders for a World Cup. There is a possibility, as you said, between of candidature of the candidatures actually of South Korea, and with some games being played in North Korea. This is a possibility that is put forward, but there are 8 other very, very strong bids, and what I can guarantee here, because we did it already for the Men's World Cup, for the bidding process in 2026, is that we'll have a bulletproof bidding process also for the Women's World Cup.
Bonjour, Jean Rességuier, RMC Sport. Une question pour le président Infantino et une question pour le président Noël Le GRAET.
Infantino and a question for President Le GRAET. First, at the draw last December in France, we spoke about the use of VAR at the Women's World Cup. Do you not feel that everything that has gone on around the competition has perhaps moved a little bit too quickly with regards to the implementation of the technology, with regards to the on-field referees and indeed the assistant referees in the media centre? That's the first question for President Infantino. For Noël Le GRAET, do you not want to necessarily think about reshuffling the French domestic league based on the success of this competition and maybe make it entirely professional? Thank you, and indeed the Professional League Association as a whole. Shall I start? VAR was a success in this competition, so not at all, I think. I think there were more than 500 situations, 31 of which... 31, is that correct? I'll check the figures. Yes, 31. 31 situations in which VAR intervened, and I think in 27 of these 31 the referee changed their decision. The success rate was more than 98%. That was what 98.4%. That's what Pierluigi Collina mentioned. It would have been 92% without VAR. I think 98.4% is better than 92%. That's only my opinion. But even if I didn't think that, I think the figures talk for themselves. Those are statistics, and it's clear, and that's why it's a success. We've spoken a lot about discrimination between men and women during the course of this World Cup. But had we not introduced a video assistant referee, and a number of people didn't want to bring it in for the Women's World Cup, then what would our mistake have been? Then we would have seemed like misogynists, old gits, if you will, thinking that women can't necessarily do the same thing as men. But that's in no way true. We wanted to bring in VAR. We took this risk because the large majority of the female officials at this match had never worked with VAR. We had some seminars, we had some training courses, we tested all of that. Each official had more than 50 hours of practical training because we do things in a very professional and serious manner. Of course, it wasn't all perfect. There are always some mistakes which crept in. However, as FIFA president, if I can choose between a World Cup where there are 27 mistakes, if you will, or a World Cup where there are not 27 mistakes, I prefer a World Cup if there are not 27 mistakes, even if it takes 2 or 3 minutes ultimately to make the right decision. So I'm delighted. I'd really like to congratulate all of the officials, the match officials on the pitch, those in the VAR room as well. Everyone did their best. I'd like to congratulate Pierluigi Collina and all of his team as well, because it wasn't easy to take this gamble, if you will, for them, and also to win. They gambled, and I'll touch wood because we've still got 2 games to play, but I think it was a success. I'm delighted with the success, and the good news is it can only improve. Things can only get better because VAR is here to stay. Those that aren't yet entirely convinced, will be in due course, I'm sure. I had 2 questions, if you will, with regards to VAR. Of course, we can't go back in time, but with regards to the first half of the competition, I thought that the stoppages were too long. I think it was a bit tricky with regards to the waiting time. I think VAR needs to help the match official. I think the match official needs to be in charge. He needs to be a master of the game, and he just needs to be helped to VAR. And I think at the start, and that's only normal, because we had the same issues in the domestic first division in Ligue 1 in France, because otherwise, if VAR comes in too much, then ultimately it slows the game too much. With regards to France, there are 2 or 3 clubs that are far away in advance of the other clubs in the division. And yesterday or the previous day, I spent a lot of time with the professional league, so that between the League Association and the FA, that we can find an agreement to make sure that those clubs which aren't necessarily well equipped with regards to medical staff or physios or have very low wages can very quickly call upon better conditions. So these are decisions that we will make very quickly. I don't know if Jean-Michel Aulas is here, but I'd like to congratulate. I think he's got 7 or 8 million euros of budget per year, and the same budget goes for Paris Saint-Germain, whereas it's 600,000 to 2 million euros per year budget of the other clubs, and those are the teams that I want to help.
I'm fortunate to come from a continent where women's soccer is very popular and girls have a lot of opportunity to play at a very young age. I was just wondering how FIFA is going to approach trying to bridge the gap between North America and Europe and some of the developing countries or continents like South America and Asia and Africa, and not let that gap get too far away. We've seen some games here where we saw the gap, but how important is it to develop the game in those areas of the world in order to bring the entire game and not just the game in North America and Europe to a higher standard?
Thanks for the question. And I actually believe that the gap between continents in women's football is actually less big than in men's football, which is already a good point, a good starting point, so to say, because this allows us to build from something which is already good. I was positively impressed at this World Cup as well from, for example, the African countries who I didn't expect to be so strong. They were strong, and they 2 of them passed even the group stage, or 1. And I think except for this 13-0 result between USA and Thailand, all other games have been much more even, and the elimination in the round of 16 or in at a later stage of the competition of some of the teams from other continents except USA and the Europeans has been sometimes on penalties, sometimes or most of the times by 1 goal difference, so very, very tight results. So there is already a good base, but we need to do more to make sure that this gap doesn't become bigger. You're absolutely right. And what we want to do more is to channel part of these investments that I was saying into the grassroots of the game all over the world. I think we need to invest much more where there is no women's football today than where there is women's football today. When I'm asked the question, and I'm not asked this question yet, so I shouldn't be speaking about that, but I will. When I'm asked the question about the prize money for the men's and the women's and so on and so forth, which is, you know, this tricky question where you cannot give a good answer. If I have to say if I would have to choose where to invest money, if it is in the prize money for those who are already at the top, or if it is investment in the grassroots to create the basis all over the world, I would invest it, of course, in the grassroots to create the base, because only with this we can grow, and then the top will grow as well, the top professional game, including the prize money. So we will invest, and we will invest in grassroots, but we will invest as well in top competitions. As I was saying, a Club World Cup will be key, with participation from clubs from all over the world, not only Europeans or North Americans, but from all over the world, because presidents club presidents all over the world have to have the possibility to have a stage at world level where they can really perform, and we will give them this stage through a Club World Cup. A Women's World League as well, which will bring competitive games all over the world at different levels, with promotion, relegation and so on, to make sure that teams play. Today what is happening, unfortunately, in many parts of the world, is that the qualification for the World Cup even is just based on a tournament. There is no proper qualification. And even where there is proper qualification, there are preliminary rounds which make that some teams get eliminated after 2 games, and then for 4 years they don't play women's football anymore. We cannot let this happen. We need to bring competitions, and that's what we will do. And with this, we will ensure that we can raise the standard all over the world, and that at the next World Cup in 2023, and thereafter every 4 years or every 2 years, we will see the best teams from all over the world will play, and it's absolutely, and it will absolutely be unpredictable who will be in the final.
Go ahead.
Okay. Bonjour, Willy Misonas pour la radio RTL. Une question.
I have a question for you, President Infantino. Last month, Michel Platini, in an interview, insinuated that you weren't necessarily always interested in the women's game. I don't know whether that's true or not. Has your opinion developed on the women's game during the World Cup? Absolutely. I was completely gripped by the Women's World Cup here in France. I have been indeed, because it's not indeed over. So it has been an absolutely incredible tournament, and I've experienced exactly the same emotions that I experienced last year in Russia. But maybe even more so this year, because Italy actually took part in the Women's World Cup, whereas the Azzurri, the men's side, didn't make it to Russia 2018. So it's a little bit more exciting for me because of that. I think we need to say, or as opposed to admit necessarily, objectively, that the women's game has made giant strides. I would say even over the last 5 years. Or the last decade, indeed, the progress has been staggering. And we've seen it in this Women's World Cup, which has been absolutely fantastic. As FIFA president, I can only be delighted about that. And it was within the scope of my plans that we wanted to double the number of registered players. But we realised that FIFA's statistics, which were to the tune of 30 million, we've moved actually from 13 to 60 million, not from 30 million to 60 million. So the statistics weren't necessarily accurate, but we are going to invest in the women's game. That is one of our great priorities. Women represent more than half of the global population. We're going to do it through respect and also in terms of logic. It's all part of developing the game, both the men's and the women's game. When you see full stadia here at the Women's World Cup, when you see the families, boys and girls, going to see so many matches, you see more young people going to see games than in the men's game. When you see the fair play on the pitch, when a girl gets a knock or she hits a heavy tackle, she gets up and on she gets with it. Whereas a men's player, he stays down, the coach screams and bloody murder and the crowd moan. But I'm delighted with the progress we've made at this Women's World Cup as a whole.
English for Gianni, Christian Radnich from Reuters. We've seen some great stories here, as you've been mentioning. However, also this week, you came in for specific criticism for a darker side of the women's game about the perceived passive response to the Afghanistan abuse scandal in women's football. Can you understand the criticism that you and FIFA received for that, and would you meet with the coach Kelly Lindsay to discuss her concerns?
Perceived by whom? Sorry? Perceived by whom? And passive response on what? Let me be by one person who I don't know why this person is criticizing. Sexual abuse on girls or boys or men or women is something very, very serious. It's something that we take very, very seriously. Everyone who has children, for example, like me, can probably not imagine, I cannot imagine personally anything worse than that. So if anyone says or dares to say that we are not taking these things very seriously, then this person is probably just seeking some other interests. But I don't want to even enter into that. It's not my interest. When FIFA was informed, and we issued a release yesterday, I think, about that, when FIFA was informed about the situation in Afghanistan, we acted immediately. Immediately. But the first thing we did was not to make a big PR exercise, look how good we are, how good we act. We thought on the interests of these girls and their families. You know, it's not in all the countries like here, where we have hotlines, where we can go and speak, where we know where to go if something happens. Afghanistan is not like France or America or other countries in this respect. If somebody even dares to say something about something like this, whether it's right or wrong, this person and his whole family risks his life. Are we aware of that before we criticize? Are we aware of what needs to be done? So of course we acted immediately, thinking about the health of these persons first and their families. We communicated immediately with the United Nations, and with their help we could act and bring in security some of these families and some of these girls, which we are still helping actively. But we didn't make a big PR exercise about it, because it's about the persons, it's not about looking good. It's about what we can do concretely. The case went then to the ethics committee of FIFA. The president of the federation was banned for life and given a 1 million fine, which is the highest fine, and not fine, the highest sanction that can be taken according to the code of ethics of FIFA. The cases are not closed yet. There are further investigations. You can imagine probably that it's not that easy to investigate such kind of cases in Afghanistan. But we are doing it, and we have taken already steps, and we've taken steps immediately, and we have taken, I think, responsible steps. And when I hear that some people are criticizing, well, you can criticize FIFA for many things, and certainly many times you are right to criticize FIFA. But we try to do the best, especially in sensitive cases like this. Well, this is something that I think needs to be respected as well. And I prefer much more to be active and help one person concretely rather than having 10 headlines where they say the FIFA president, look how good he is and what he did for this case. So I prefer to be, if somebody wants to criticize us for that, okay, fine, no problem. But we helped, and we helped concretely, and we acted. And I hope that these persons who have committed these horrible crimes will be held accountable by justice, because this is the sanction that they, of course, would deserve by the ordinary justice and not by an ethics committee of a football organization. Thank you.
We will take the two last questions, one here.
Oh, now everybody wants to have questions.
One here, and I decide on the last one.
Bonjour, Paul Aubard de la Nouvelle République.
Hello, this is a question to Brigitte. You have talked about this legacy, if you will, and all the professional clubs. Are there any other concrete actions that will be carried out in the next few months to help out the other professional clubs, to help out the outcomes and the results of this WWC? Well, yes, we had anticipated this since 2 years of a budget of about 15 million euros that would be allocated to these clubs to be able to get new infrastructures. That's the greatest difficulty we encounter. A lot of these clubs need locker rooms, for example. Their women's locker rooms, then also improve the playing field, and 9 million will or has been invested into infrastructures. That's about 70% of the amount via the league, and everything is very welcomed. Then, as a result of some of the information, some 400 to 600,000 euros will be allocated to the trainers, to the educators, to other kinds of technical preparation staff to prepare the clubs, also T-shirts, jerseys, other kinds of equipment that is needed in the world of women's football. We're starting very quickly to introduce these kinds of funds. A young girl who wants to play football doesn't know where to go, so we have to still work a lot at the very grassroots. You know, we have to introduce these people, get them further aware of centers and areas they can turn to get this kind of information and where to go play. And so as of today, we can have a good mapping of all of the football centers, the people's names, the contact people they can turn to get information about how to enter the world of women's football. Obviously, then I can talk to you also about other things. For the last 5 years, we've been able to invest more heavily into grassroots initiatives, and we've been able to develop from 3 small teams to 6 of them. And as of we look to next year, we're also going to be able to promote more competition with young people. There's going to be also football games with just 5 people on the team, then bring it up to 8 people, and then also senior leagues. 15-year-old girls will start to play. Others have already been playing for 6 or 7 years now, women at different levels. So we'll have a lot more flexibility to introduce in this kind of game, playing at 5, playing with 8 players. And this is really the supply of players that is creating a lot of demand. And so a lot of information is going to be distributed and divulged around this. So as of that information, once you're 15 years old, you can get your registered card being part of the World Soccer Federation. And so there are lots of actions that will be carried out in middle school to promote women's soccer, even in high schools. And as we said, and as our president of the French Football Association, almost 80,000 euros will be allocated to all of this development at the professional level for a professional league. But so much can be said even with regard to this. We have to help out these clubs to professionalize women players more and more. A lot of things have been said now, but now we need to structure things. Now we have to get down to the nitty-gritty. And now we really have to put in place medical staff, that we have significant medical and technical personnel available, and technical staff that have to work alongside these women players full-time. I think this is going to be the after WWC. This is what is going to follow suit as a result of all the good results, and we will do the best we can to accelerate things.
Here, and then we will finish with the host, with AFP.
Hi, question in English, Rob Parrish from Associated Press. Want a technical one, first of all. The 1 billion you mentioned that's been made available to women's football, obviously you're not just handing that out. I'm guessing that countries have to apply for that funding.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. Well, we need to define the projects as well, because part of it is linked with projects such as the Club World Cup, Women's World League, and so on and so forth. Youth competitions and so on.
And the main question is the person that you haven't mentioned at all yet, who runs the administration, Fatma Samora, who's been silent throughout the World Cup. We've not heard from her. And you're obviously...
Who has been?
Fatma Samora.
Yeah.
She's been silent for us.
She has been what?
Silent. We've not heard...
Silent?
Silent.
Well, she's been working, that's why.
Yeah, we've not heard what she's been doing, regrettably. But obviously you are losing...
She's been here the whole time.
Yeah. But obviously you are losing her shortly from the administration. So, first of all, you talk very often about the fact you appointed her, the fact she's a woman, she is the first African Secretary-General, but we hear less about maybe what you think she's done in the job and what her big achievements are. And specifically on her job she's going to at CAF. Some of the African ExCo members are unhappy about the way it was handled. Alexander Schäferin is also unhappy with the way he was rushed into that decision.
Question.
The question is, in terms of what makes CAF such a problem that Ahmad is still the president, despite very serious allegations, including some of the issues you've talked about here today around some of those, but he's still suitable to remain in the position with you entrusting your Secretary General to take a position there.
And what this question has to do with the Women's World Cup?
Well, it is your Secretary General. It's announced during the Women's World Cup. We've not had a chance to question on it. You announced it here.
That's a good link.
You announced it while we're here. It's your.
Well, I go to Africa. I will participate at the Congress of CAF, and I will speak with the media there as well. And there we can extend as much as you want about the projects and the ideas we have for Africa, because Africa is certainly a continent. I was mentioning even the African teams here playing here at this World Cup, a continent that we believe in, and I'm very happy with the fact that the CAF Executive Committee unanimously decided to, together then with us, to have Fatma Samora going for the next 6 months.
No, Rob, sorry, no.
I'll let him ask.
No, but we need translation.
Many people say many things, right? When decisions need to be taken, decisions are taken, and then we have to progress. And then some people who don't dare maybe to speak at the meetings, they speak after to the media. Some are happy, others are not happy. As long as I'm FIFA president, I take my responsibilities. And I said it without knowing what was going to happen at the press conference after the Congress, it's easy for a FIFA president to say if something happens somewhere, it's their problem. It has nothing to do. Thanks God, now with FIFA everything is clean, everything is open. The accounts and the millions, where they are coming from and where they're going, you can all see it in the financial report, even though nobody is writing that, but it is there, and I would be happy if somebody sometimes could also say that and acknowledge that. There are no millions disappearing anywhere, which was the case quite regularly in the past. Now everything is clear. So I could easily say, if something happens in Africa or in Asia or in America, it's their problem. We don't care. But we do care. We do care, because FIFA is the world governing body of football. And we take our responsibilities, and we send our #1 football administrator, Fatma Samoura, who has been working very good in the last 3 years since she was appointed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the successes we had in terms of management, in terms of administration. I don't think I need to say this every day. I'm not involved in the operational tasks of FIFA. Of course, I'm always giving my comments, and I'm always trying to help and to assist. Sometimes it's perceived as help or assistance. Other times it's perceived as what does he want, this guy? But the work is done by the administration of FIFA, and the head of the administration is Fatma. And if I wouldn't be convinced of her capabilities, I would certainly not have decided with her and with the executive committee of CAF that she would be the right person to help us bring Africa back where it belongs, and help all together the African continent to come up. So I believe very much in our joint work. We are a team. We're working together. As in every team, you have good moments and bad moments, but at the end you need to succeed. If there are people who criticize, well, you know, somebody told me a few days ago, well, it must be tough to be FIFA president. Everyone is criticizing, or many are criticizing FIFA. I said, well, I think that those who criticize, they are in a worse position than those who are there and try to change things. So we move ahead. As far as the FIFA Bureau of the Council is concerned, the decision was taken also there unanimously, with 1 vote against only. But for the rest, the whole world agrees. So if everyone agrees but one, who is right? Everyone who agrees, or the but one who didn't? I don't know. We move ahead. We do things. We act. We want to make African football shine. There is now a great competition going on in Africa as well, and I'm looking very much forward to what we will be doing together with all the Africans, those who are in favor and those who maybe are not in favor. We're looking very much forward to what we'll be doing there in the next 6 months. And you will see the difference.
Okay, very last question now to AFP.
Oui, bonjour. Ma question est en français pour Monsieur le Président.
Well, my question is for President Infantino. Congratulations on your French. Well, with regard to this WWC, we've seen some players from the US team that were very committed. Does that surprise you that this kind of WWC served as a platform for other, say, political views or other things outside of the world of sports? What do you think about this? Do you think it is a World Women's Cup? It's also a good forum where women fought against sexual abuse and women's discrimination. And what do you think about the views of this American team? Well, I think in general, everybody is free to express their personal point of view in whichever way they want to. When there's a WWC, a World Cup regarding football, well, then you have to focus on football. Yes, we can celebrate some of these other subjects, topics. We can be thrilled about certain successes. But I think we should also remain respectful for things. I think we have to say that the WWC is an extraordinary platform to promote women's equality, to promote all sorts of topics that can be discussed in different kinds of fora, if you will. Plurally speaking, to talk about politics, though, may be a little bit going too far. Political things, let's say the political sphere, and then the sports arena should be separate. We should keep things in that way separate.
See you tomorrow for the Matchday -1 press conferences and, of course, for the final. Thank you very much.